the stories to lift each other, give hope to push us further, and encourage one another. Behind the scenes,
Dad, what you doing?
Huh?
Tell me about your shirt.
Hey, this here tells the truth.
What does it say?
We built this joint for free.
What you talking about?
I'm talking about working for free for 254 years of slavery, another 130 something, and legalized slavery during segregation,
Okay.
and no affirmative action, the lack of action, and a retrenchment of all the rights we gained in the 60s.
All power to the people.
All power to the people.
Angela Rye was no stranger to the political scene when she emerged as one of the prominent voices on CNN's coverage of the 2016 election. A daughter to activist parents Eddie Rye Jr. and Andrea Rye, she later became a lawyer and served as the executive director and general counsel to the Congressional Black Caucus for the 112th Congress. She is also an entrepreneur starting her own firm, Impact Strategies. She has her own merch line entitled We Built This Joint, emphasizing the plight of Black Americans and free labor through slavery. You can also catch commentary from Angela on her regular appearances on The Breakfast Club and her very own podcast, On One with Angela Rye. Angela Rye is definitely doing it for the culture.
And so now we have with us Angela Rye. Hello, Angela.
Hi, Derek.
How are you? I miss you.
I miss you too. It's so good to see you even on a screen because COVID.
I know it feels like it's been a long time. I met you through Cynthia. Cynthia referred me to do your hair, and I was literally so excited because I was watching the coverage of you on CNN and being that voice for us back when the 2016 election was happening. So when she gave me the call, I was like, of course. And so you did not disappoint. You are one of the sweetest people I know. And so I'm so glad that you did the show for me today.
It is my pleasure, Derek. Thank you for having me.
All right. So, Angela, we know, like I said, 2016 was a huge election year. Trump was really going around with a bunch of rhetoric. You were starting to be this face of what in the world are you Republicans talking about? Like, that's really where you sort of hit the forefront because your facial expressions, not even your voice as much, your facial expressions a lot of times were saying what a lot of us were feeling. But I want to step back and I want to go back to who is the Angela Rye pre-spotlight? Where'd your beginnings come from?
Well, I was raised in Seattle, Washington, with my mom and dad. My dad is still very much an activist at home, and my mom now is a retired college administrator. But being Black and being raised in a Black household was very central to my upbringing. Our tribe was one that was deep, both through the immediate family and extended family. And so it's so funny that people are like, well, how are you off camera? And I'm like, the exact same.
Right.
So I think the one difference would be I'm really pretty goofy and silly. And so on air, there have been a lot of moments where it's been more of a tense conversation, whether intense because of the subject matter or tense because it's in a debate that I think is kind of meaningless. And so I think that's the biggest difference. I don't like to spend my time in conversation that I don't think is advancing in any real meaningful way, but That's it.
Okay. So when you started off, like you graduating high school, was the direction that you're in now, is this the direction that you meant to go, or what were your initial plans, teenage Angela?
Yeah, I think since I was 6 years old, I was saying I wanted to be a lawyer, not having a full understanding of all of the things that a lawyer does necessarily, but really wanting to advocate for people who were struggling or who didn't have adequate resources or who needed someone to be their champion. That was what I was drawn to. And I never had any desire to be on air. And what's so funny is even with that, I was really good in drama in high school. I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, oh, maybe there was, but I really thought it was for fun. Didn't run away from public speaking or from being an advocate that, you know, had a platform. I was on stage for rallies and in student leadership in high school, but I never was like, oh, TV, that's where I'm going. Never.
What kind of law were you studying?
So in law school, there's not a specific concentration. So it's just general. You go your 3 years and you kind of figure it out along the way what you're interested in. Before I went to law school, I was saying that I wanted to be a sports and entertainment attorney. And then I had a situation after church one Sunday with a professional football player that was like, if I let you represent me, what you gonna give me? And I was like, what I'm not going to be is a high class prostitute. So I'll come up with something else. So I was like, well, I want to be like the Black female Johnny Cochran.
Right.
So let me be Black woman Johnny Cochran then, because we admired him so much growing up. So I started to try to pursue that, and then met Congresswoman Waters and fell in love with the activism blend of political movement building. And that's what she does so well. She is both a legislator and a sincere advocate and organizer in our community. So that's why I was like, well, let me go and try to do this instead, because I didn't want just to make an impact client by client. I really wanted to have big impact. So
how did you become the executive director for the Congressional Black Caucus?
Yeah, so I think that really was the start. Interning with Congresswoman Waters really made me fall in love with the different type of politics. The politics that I grew up around was one where my dad was always on the opposite side of them, and they didn't have a great relationship. There were some elected officials who he had kind of respect for. There was a mutual respect, but they weren't buddies, you know. Mm-hmm. And with Congresswoman Waters, there's this, activism that I grew up with at home, blended in the same body as someone who was a dope advocate and champion for us in Congress. So from working with her, I was like, I think I could, do this. So I ended up working at an organization called NAFIO that represents Black colleges and universities throughout the country. And when I left there, I started working on Capitol Hill for a congressperson named Benny Gordon Thompson from Mississippi, who is the chair of the Homeland Security Committee. And a lot of people might say, you were on the Homeland Security Committee? And that's the same thing I thought. But when I met him and his chief of staff, Lanier Avant, who's still like a big brother to me to this day, I knew that it was home, right? Mm-hmm. I knew coming from Congresswoman Waters' office to there and from NAFIO to there, it was home. This was a place where I could do right by my people. And Congressman Thompson used to ask me regularly, aren't you lucky? And I would say, why? So you get to work for Black people and you get paid for it. And I was like, yeah, actually I am.
Right.
So I did well in his office because he thought so much like my dad. It was like I intuitively understood, how he would want to move. And as a result, got promoted 3 times. And then after that, went to the CBC to work under Congressman Cleaver's chairmanship, which was a marvelous experience. Our team was incredible. The chair was incredible. And I learned so much from the CBC members. So
what were some of your duties?
So as the executive director and general counsel at the time, I was responsible for the big picture strategy for the caucus. It was 10 years ago. So it was the 40th anniversary of the CBC. And we were working to build out programming that cemented their legacy. The members are known collectively as the conscience of the Congress. At that time, the caucus was the largest it's ever been. It ever had been. And now today they have even more members. There are 55 members, or is it 60 members now at the CBC? I got to fact check that. But they're close to 60 if it's not 60. And we also did a really huge undertaking. Of course, Barack Obama, who was former Senator Barack Obama, who was also a member of the CBC, was president at the time. And so Black unemployment as a result of the last few years of the Bush administration was sky high. Like it was almost triple the national average. And the CBC members saw it, like of course they do with everything impacting our community, as a national emergency, as a crisis that they had to respond to. So we planned and orchestrated a 5-city job tour based on the resources we had to bear. There were only 4 staff members. Of course, the members of Congress and their staff helped to chip in. And then with the budget that was limited at the time because of the way it was set up. So we did 5 cities, town halls and job fairs, and our lines would be around the block. People needed jobs so much. I remember one example of just how desperate the situation was. Congressman Lewis, may God rest his soul. Of course, he just left us last fall. Went outside because it was so hot in Atlanta. We were in Atlanta for this job fair, and people were outside like passing out. So Congressman Lewis like goes and runs past us and is like, come on, we got to give these people water. He takes this big old case of water. We're like, wait, Congressman will help you. He was already out there like sleeves rolled up, like we got to get them water. And so he was out there slinging water. So we were like, let us help you. But he's so used to service. And that's really who the members are and how they are. So that's one of my proudest memories. We also did a voting rights tour. We worked on legislation, like a really good broad sweeping jobs, American Jobs Act. We did a lot around Trayvon's death because he was killed while we were working with the caucus. So, I mean, it was just a lot, but it was one of the most magnificent, exhausting experience I ever had, but I wouldn't take it back. I learned so much from them.
Okay. So I want to know, did Impact Strategies come first or CNN come first?
Impact Strategies.
Okay.
When I was leaving the Hill, I started the firm.
Okay.
I got job offers that I didn't like, that felt like, I think I could do better than this on my own. And I was right. And then I started doing TV One. Shout out to Roland Martin and his EPJ at the time. I did a special with Reverend Al, and then the EP for that special was also Roland's EP on Washington Watch. And I started doing Washington Watch every week. There was an exec named Antoine Sanfuentes at MSNBC who was like, do you want to do more TV? And I was like, sure. So then I started doing MSNBC. And then a little while later, closer to the 2016 election is when I started doing CNN. So CNN was much later.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So were you apprehensive doing TV? Were you nervous? Did you? Okay, so you've never been one of those people to shy away from being vocal.
The only time I was nervous or I've been nervous on air is when somebody asked me something that I don't know about. That I'm like, now I've learned that like I know how to pivot. I'm never gonna go on air and say like opine or say something or make like a declarative statement about something I don't know about. I just think my responsibility as someone with the platform is I shouldn't mislead people even by accident. So I've gone on air and made, cited a statistic wrong. And I've gone on Twitter and been like, you guys, I'm so sorry. This was the stat. I messed up. I take that very seriously. I do not believe in disinformation or lying to folks.
Right. So who were like some of your mentors? Who were some of those people that came in and said, hey, Angela, I'm pouring into you? Who poured into you along this journey?
Ooh,
as far as the television journey is concerned. Yeah,
but so many. When I started with MSNBC, it wouldn't have happened without Reverend Al. There, like I said, Antoine Sanfuentes, who really showed me the ropes and was there for me and checked on me throughout, even when he went to CNN. Joy Reid, who is like a big sister to me, but, also someone who not only is just so pleasant, but has always been such a tremendous cheerleader. Who else? On the CNN side, Jake Tapper was extraordinary to me. And then there are so many people that you all wouldn't know that are kind of behind the scenes. There are producers on shows, people like Jamie Zahn and who else? Gosh, there's so many people. Jonathan Wald, who since left CNN and went to MSNBC, was fantastic to me. Wolf Blitzer, really went out of his way to help me early on. And there are just so many other people who outside of the building. There's a woman named Tanya Lombard who does a lot with the Essence platform, is at AT&T, but it's always been like a big sister. How could I forget Donna Brazil?
Right.
When I was going into CNN, super, super helpful. Van Jones, Bakari Sellers, just so many people who were like, we need your voice and we want to make sure that your road is easier traveled than mine was. And I'm so grateful. Sunny Hostin, right, who is also like, a sister to me, just tremendous, and was helping me when I was navigating and negotiating CNN early too.
Gotcha. Okay. So 2016 comes, you're on these panels, you're talking, you're giving your voice, and then you start to go viral and people are like putting you in all these clips of you checking who later became working in the Trump administration, Kayleigh McEnany, and different people, you're having to go head to head with these people. How did you handle all of this immense, I don't know, was it pressure, or I don't even know what to call it, but like all of this new attention, rather?
You know what's so great about working on Capitol Hill is I learned from, there's a woman named Cherie Branson, who is our chief oversight counsel on the Homeland Security Committee. And one thing she told us early that I've never forgotten is that you never want to embarrass your boss. And anytime you do something that, you know, is bad or wrong or whatever, if there's a headline, the headline will be, at the time, again, I worked for Congressman Thompson. So Chairman Thompson staffer is what the headline will be. It won't even be your name. And so to me, the attention didn't matter, right? It's like, you know, I'm glad that whatever I was doing resonated with some people. I think I was frustrated initially about the amount of attention that went on to like an eye roll that went viral, or, you know, moments where I was dragging somebody instead of moments where I really felt like I was using my words to empower and to heal. But then I accepted the fact that what was happening is there were people who felt like I could do something at work that they couldn't. So then I was just like in gratitude, like, I'm glad that I can be an advocate and a champion for you to use your voice, even if I don't love the way I use my voice in this particular instant. And then I just started moving more towards, okay, how do I want to use my words? How will I spend my time? I started declining segments that I thought weren't healthy for me. I have a problem with revisionist history. I have a problem with the fact that we continue to make it seem like racism all of a sudden was discovered, right, with Donald Trump. That's not really the case. I remember when Michael Steele was damn near ostracized and kicked out of the RNC. I remember when the Barack, the Magic Negro ad came out. I remember when birtherism was a thing. I remember when there was racism tied to the war on drugs with Ronald Reagan. I remember all of these things and what has happened over time, not just in the Republican Party, because the Democrats have blood on their hands too. It's just not equal. Is we have allowed covert racism to surface, and now it's overt. That is all that's happened, because for years we pretended like covert racism wasn't really that thing. We pretended like it wasn't the undercover N-word. We pretended like calling people ghetto and hood rats wasn't racism, and all of the time it was. From a mental health standpoint, and if I knew that after I finished that segment I was going to be in tears, I wouldn't do it. If I felt like there was somebody not necessarily beneath me, but I knew that they didn't have to have the same qualifications to be on air as I did, I wouldn't do it. Right. I did not want to use my power and cede that to them when I knew that meant I was empowering some nonsense. So I shifted, and I think it was a good move.
No, I think it was a great move, and you have definitely been a voice for a lot of people.
I'm grateful.
Yeah. What do you say about the people that because a lot of times I find, and just to be just blunt with it, you've had to come against a lot of non-ethnic people in a conversation, and they try to, it feels like they try to belittle you. How have you managed that sort of, you know what I'm saying, trying to navigate the conversations with them? How has that started to, how did you manage that?
Yeah, I think in the past, I've managed it in ways where it was like, oh, I'm going to tell you who I am. You're not ever going to make that mistake again. And now I think that being powerful and being empowered doesn't mean I have to domineer. You know, I can command with respect without screaming, without cussing you out, without, you know, and I think there'll still be moments where, you know, I didn't do my morning prayer meditation and I still, you know, check you back. Right. But my goal is to disarm people so that when they get ready to do that to the next sister or brother or Black person, they'll think twice about it.
Gotcha. Okay, so I interviewed Sonny and we brought you on. Actually, you sort of helped me on the show. You came on my episode for Johnny because Johnny's done your hair when he's been in LA, and we talked about you with Sonny because you and her were a part of the Washington Times. I think it was the Washington Times op-ed.
Oh, Washington Post. Washington
Post. Thank you. Washington Times. Washington Post op-ed where you guys sort of fought for a Black vice presidential pick, and you got that. How did it feel? Because I talked to Sunny just at the time where she was picked. I'm talking to you post after she got picked. What was that moment for you? I remember you posting on your social media. You felt like you were just in a space of gratitude. What was going on in your mind?
Yeah, so we had 3 demands in our op-ed. One was for a comprehensive Black agenda, a Black woman Supreme Court justice, and a Black woman VP. And so to me, yes, I'm grateful, but I'm also in full recognition that that's what we deserve. Right. And I still haven't moved from that. I am excited for Kamala. I'm excited for Vice President Harris. I am excited for the little girls who can see her and realize that that is possible for them, and for the little boys and other little kids who see that and are like, yeah, that's normal, right? It's not in some abnormal thing, some alien-like thing. It's like a real legitimate moment in history, and it won't be the last, as Kamala says so much.
How hopeful, okay, you did get the vice president pick, but how hopeful are you that the rest of your petitions would get answered, the Black agenda and all of those things? How are you feeling? Are you hopeful? I mean, because answer that question. Are you hopeful?
What I would say is that I'm always going to be hopeful, but I'm not hopeful instead of working, right? I'm actively working towards ensuring we get what we demanded.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will ask you this question. This was a question on my heart. And being someone that worked with the CBC, do you feel like Democrats are more reactive or proactive? I feel like right now we're hearing them already talking about 2022 elections on the Republican side. We're hearing them already talk about who they're going to put up for presidential nominations. Are we doing enough on the Democratic side? Or are Democrats? I won't say we. I'll be very impartial.
Yeah, no. The answer is no, they're not. What you're seeing right now, and I saw this last night, Snoop Dogg, I don't know when this is going to air, but Snoop posted a video of a man singing to Joe Biden that he wanted his COVID relief money.
Joe, I voted for you because you said it's coming soon. We're past the inauguration day. We're right in the thick of it, and you know I am sick of it. How long do we have to wait?
And that's fine to petition the president for what you want, but it's also really important to understand how government works. So the House has already considered the bill, the American Rescue Relief Package, but the Senate has not, because there's one Democratic senator that they really need to side with them to get not only the COVID relief money, the minimum wage increase that folks are fighting for, and so much else in this bill. It's another Joe. It's not Biden, it's Joe Manchin from West Virginia. And so what I worry about is that Democrats aren't always so strategic about how you leverage the vote, so that one member in West Virginia, mostly out of touch with the rest of the country and how severe the economic part of this crisis is, because West Virginia, the cost of living is way different in West Virginia than it is in New York or Cali or, Texas, where a lot of other people live, where there's a denser population. And so how do you ensure that someone there doesn't have dominion and control over the rest of the country like that? And I think that that's something they have to start really wrestling with, so that he votes in tandem and with sorry, this dog is barking. But so that he votes in tandem with the rest of the party and in alignment with what the country is saying it needs and wants, not just his constituents. So there needs to be something that happens almost where it's like, Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, we're not going to give you any money, Joe Manchin, to run your race. Like, you won't get a single contribution from us if you don't vote here. And
Right.
so that would be up to the Senate whip, which is the majority whip, which is Dick Durbin from Illinois. But they got to start pulling some strings to make sure that folks fall in line. And I think it goes broader than that. Yes, Democrats are too reactive in messaging, too reactive in organizing votes, too reactive in what needs to happen next. Super, super proud of Congressmember Bass, who's the former chair of the CBC, who's saying justice and policing isn't over just because George Floyd was last summer. We actually are going to push this still right now. So
Right.
there are other things like that you're seeing happening that I think we need more of.
Okay, got you. Since you brought that up with George Floyd, how are you feeling about where we are with justice reform and, prison reform and actually the possibility of even getting some justice when it comes to those that have been slain? On The View, we recently had Elijah McClain's mother on there, and they were just finding out new information concerning his case. How hopeful are you? Because the more I've become involved, I'm not gonna lie, it sort of becomes very weighing on my shoulders. I get a little sad because it's like, and then especially not only watching now, but I recently watched the Amend on Netflix and all of these different things, and even just watching Andra Day's performance, just the way we constantly have been hunted and just never given fair justice. Do you feel hopeful in any of this?
Well, again, I balance my hope with my work. I know that things have to get better for the next generation, and that doesn't happen without real intentionality and action on our parts. And I tell people all the time, I have this necklace, and on it, this is Harriet Tubman. Mm-hmm. And then you just think about what would have happened if she would have gave up. And so, yeah, things are difficult for us, but they used to be much harder. True. And yeah, ideally, we would erase racism. I said racism, maybe that was a Freudian slip. Prejudice would no longer exist. Xenophobia would no longer exist. Homophobia would no longer, all these things would dissipate. But the reality of it is given the human condition and the many ways in which people see people who are different as threats, that has to change over time. And the best way that it will change is through, I think, platforms like this and educating people through media, through books. If they read Black books. Right. Maybe things will change, but we certainly have an obligation to do our parts, and we can't grow weary in well-doing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for bringing that scripture because it gave me a little oomph. It took
Good.
It took me to church. Okay. So because this is behind the scenes beauty, we're going to take it into the fashion way area. You are a bit of a fashionista yourself. You have showed up at some amazing events looking amazing. So who are some designers that you love and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I want to shout out Fear of God. Jerry Lorenzo has become like a brother to me. And I love the way that he's brought, our culture, our vibes into high fashion. And people can't do anything but respect it. Like, it's a rebel with a cause, right? Mm-hmm. The Fear of God brand. I think of Pierre Moss, and not only have they done something very similar, but I went to Fashion Week a couple times, but the one that I went to that will be my most memorable is going to see the Pierre Moss show. And what I loved about it was our music, our choir, our vibes walking down what would normally be a runway, but it was through this historical museum in Brooklyn. And even the way that Kirby will uplift our voices in a fashion campaign. I just love that. It's like, no, we're here and we're not going to conform to your ways of doing fashion. You're actually going to have to embrace ours to embrace my brand. So I honor him for that, truly. I love Sergio Hudson, and it's been incredible to watch his meteoric rise. Dressing Kamala and dressing Michelle Obama. It's like, this is wonderful, and it's exactly what he deserves. And so much more. I'm devastated that Carly Cushney decided to close her doors because I loved her clothes. I felt so good in them. And she would always remind me that I probably shouldn't have ate that last Impossible Burger if I'm going to slip into this Carly jumpsuit. But like, oh, and then Hanifa, you saw Hanifa rise during COVID because she put together this super dope fashion show where people, like, you see bodies that aren't actual human beings wearing her clothes. Did my camera just get blurry?
It did. It got a little.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I don't know what just happened, but you see Hanifa like with these invisible bodies, but like they're form-fitting, walking down these runways. Her fashion show went viral. Sister in Maryland that is killing it. And so forever supporting all of them. And I'm honored that they have also been willing to dress me, but it's been my pleasure to support them as well.
So I have just 2 more questions I want to ask. And one of them is recently Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, was on the cover of Vogue. And there was a lot of, to do about it, whether or not it was glamorous enough, whether it was too general and generic. Being that she is the first Black woman president, Black and Asian president, or let's just go there.
Well, vice president, but she hopefully will be president too one day.
Yes. Oh, I'm speaking it. It was a Freudian slip. Look at God.
Yeah.
Right. But because she is the first woman vice president, do you feel like she can embrace the fashion side of being a woman? Like how Michelle Obama had these amazing fashion moments. Will she be able to be a part of that? Or are people not going to say she's not taking the job seriously?
Well, I think what's most important is that Kamala embraces her truth. So whatever she wants to do, however she wants to look, she is a prosecutor by training. And so I think the dark pantsuit is very much her thing, So if she wants to keep wearing dark pantsuits, so be it. If she decides, she wants to put her hair up and she wants to wear something bright, so be it. I think the most important thing is that we give her permission, and she doesn't have to accept it or not, but to continue to be herself. But I think to each his or her own, right? Like, or to their own, it's fine. She can
the reason why I asked that question, because I remember when Hillary, is for women, it's always that balance of, oh, she's trying to be too pretty and she's worried about, especially for Democrats. They always act like Democrats are all about the limelight and, she wants to be known and she wants to be on the cover of magazines. And then, on the opposite side, and especially when we see what, a lot of things, because Obama got criticized for wearing a tan suit.
Exactly.
So that's really why I asked the question, because I'm just wondering, will she be able to be her full self, or does she have to walk this thin line, you think?
I think Kamala, from what I know about her and have gotten to know about her over the years, is she will absolutely and unapologetically be herself. So I think that, if she decides again that she wants to wear something else, she will. And if she doesn't, she'll do that too.
Gotcha. All right. So I sometimes remember to ask the question, and I sometimes forget. But my closing question is always, what is beautiful to you?
Beauty to me is, when you see someone and that they are 100% themselves and they are super comfortable. I think there's nothing like that. For me personally, it is feeling completely at home in my body, knowing that I made, effort to get dressed or, to do my face or put on my favorite earrings or whatever. And I have my prayer and meditation time and I'm listening to the music that I love. And it's something about feeling good on the inside and out. And that to me is beautiful.
Well, thank you. Is there anything you're working on? Anything we should be on the lookout for?
Oh, there's always something. I would just say stay tuned.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Angela. I love you to pieces.
I love you. Thank you for all the moments where you've made me feel beautiful.
Oh, thank you, boo. But so easy. You're such a good canvas. And what's crazy about it is people don't really know you are so like you're such a bold personality on television, but you're so like, you know, you're sweet. You like you like we laugh, we joke like it's you're
Definitely laughing. Definitely.
when Eugene is there.
I'm sweet unless you cross me.
Right.
Now that's the truth. So, and then, you know, everybody has their bad days. In case anybody ever sees me on the street and they're like, she wasn't nice to me that day. Sorry, y'all. Probably had a bad day.
You caught it. You just had to catch it.
Right.
All right, my love. Well, I'll be talking to you
you
soon. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you. You too, Dee.
All
Bye-bye.
right.